The frigid swimmer. My brother, JJ, and I had a tradition of fishing at an isolated pond after dark on Friday nights. The spot was far from any town, requiring a hike through the woods which kept the crowds away. It was nearing full darkness when we settled onto our usual rocky ledge. Suddenly I noticed movement far across the water, a subtle, persistent rippling. We watched, confused, until a dark form slowly rose from the center of the agitation. It was too tall and too upright to be a fish. It was a person. The sight was instantly alarming. A fully submerged individual emerging in a remote post-sunset lake. My initial instinct was to leave, but JJ insisted on staying. We watched the figure sway rhythmically, their movements unnaturally fluid. A few minutes later, the figure sank beneath the surface again. JJ, now totally captivated, started a stopwatch on his phone. As the time approached the 3-minute mark, a new set of ripples appeared. Much closer this time, about a fifth of the way across. When the figure surfaced again, she was clearly visible. A young woman with long brown hair, wearing a dark green swimming outfit. She was striking, and paradoxically, her presence eased my fear momentarily. She offered us a flirtatious smile and greeted us casually, acting as if she hadn't just performed a superhuman feat of apnea in ice-cold water. When my brother asked what she was doing, she simply said, "Swimming," and then, with a teasing glare, she glided closer and asked us to join her. I pointed out the freezing temperature, calling her crazy. Her playful demeanor vanished instantly. She fixed us with a cold, intense stare. That look reignited my fear. I grabbed JJ and told her we were leaving. She let out a piercing, panicked scream of "no!" and started yelling for us to return to the water. As we sprinted for the trail, her yells turned into inhuman shrieks, like an animal being wounded. We didn't stop running until we reached the car, where JJ immediately called the local police. We never went back without an adult, and we never saw the screaming swimmer again. The Myers Grip. I was out on a 2-person kayak in the Louisiana marshes with my friend, Angel. It was early spring, cold and still. We were pulling in some speckled trout when Angel, leaning too far over, dropped his mobile phone into the shallow, muddy water. He was distraught. The phone was covered by his insurance only if it was recovered. After 20 fruitless minutes of poking the thick, vegetative bottom with our paddles, Angel declared he wouldn't leave without it. Before I could object, he stripped down to his boxers and stepped into the chest-deep, frigid water. He started shuffling his feet on the muddy floor, searching for the device. I watched, impatient, knowing the cold would soon become unbearable. Then, without warning, Angel let out a choked cry, and his body was instantly yanked forward and completely pulled under. Before I could react, he burst back up from the marsh. Choking and sputtering, his face caked in black muck, he clawed his way back onto the kayak, his body shaking uncontrollably. Once we paddled to a safe distance, he explained, his voice strained. Something grabbed my ankle. He couldn't describe it as a hand or a tooth or a claw, just a powerful, non-animalistic force that had clamped onto him with unbelievable strength and tried to drag him away. He struggled violently until he broke its grip. He was convinced it was nothing natural, no catfish or gar. The event was so terrifying that we abandoned the day's fishing, leaving the phone behind, the sense of an unseen, lurking menace replacing our peaceful fishing trip. The Reservoir Watcher. My friends and I, Nick, Kat, Megan, and I used to frequent a small, isolated reservoir behind Megan's neighborhood. We always had to climb through a hole in a fence, as it was technically county property. One evening as the sun dipped, Kat spotted something odd down the bank, a canoe wedged in the reeds. It wasn't just abandoned. It looked abruptly vacated. A fishing rod lay unattended. A tackle box was open, and most bizarrely, a half-eaten sandwich in a cell. Phone with its flashlight on were sitting on the main seat. Who leaves a perfectly good phone behind? The discovery immediately created a heavy, uneasy atmosphere. As we were gathering our things to leave, Megan suddenly pointed across the water and gasped. Standing still in the knee-deep water on the far side of the reservoir was a person. They were motionless, holding a long stick-like object, and they were staring directly at us. The creepiness instantly turned to fear. We started moving quickly toward our exit, but the person shouted after us, a loud, belligerent cry telling us to get out. Then the final terrifying moment. The person dropped their object and, without hesitation, started swimming across the reservoir toward us. We screamed and sprinted for the hole in the fence. As I was crawling through last, I could hear the aggressive, determined splashing of the swimmer getting closer. We piled into the car and sped away, leaving the mystery of the abandoned canoe and the furiously aggressive swimmer unresolved, too afraid to risk going back for answers. These rewritten versions maintain the core unsettling events but use different phrasing, sentence structure, and descriptive elements,